What's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Fighting Words. Wednesday, December 10th. Happy holidays. Special episode of Fighting Words. We've dusted off the microphones, and that means something has obviously happened here as free agency plugs along. And that something happens to be a 5-year deal for $150 million to Kyle Schwarber. And I know that there's probably two reactions that you can have to that news, Anthony. And the first being is you had to re-sign him at all costs, given what he means to the team, both on the field and his power and his leadership. And then also, how on earth would you give an aging DH a $30 million per year deal when he's essentially a one-trick pony? What the hell are they doing? And I think that most people lean towards the former, but there are some people out there that wonder, is this the best way to allocate these funds and tying up more money in another aging guy moving forward? So I definitely want to work through not only your take and your opinion, but really probably buried the lead here. You're down there in Florida right now covering the owners' meetings, and look, there's obviously some conversations that you're having, some things you're hearing, and news is sort of breaking even as we talk. So I think that people will be very interested to hear about what you're hearing down there.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting couple days down here at the winter meetings in Orlando. By the way, I'm completely unprepared for the fact that this hotel is freezing. I figure I'm going to Florida. I'll go short sleeves, nice and easy. Everything down here, this room has been like a refrigerator for 3 days. So
what's the weather like outside? Is it 31 degrees and windy?
No, but it's not like typical Florida. It's like upper 60s.
So
right? So it's a little cool.
All right. The winter meetings have provided that tropical refuge.
No, not one bit.
I hope you survive it. I hope you're okay.
Yeah. Thanks. No, yesterday was a wild day. It was like an Academy Award winning movie. It was everything everywhere all at once. It's what it was, and all the news was happening at the same time yesterday. The announcement of Schwarber getting that contract. So just to kind of give a little bit of some background on this. So he had been talking to several teams. Obviously, everybody knows that. And, he wanted to test free agency. And a pretty good offer came in from the Baltimore Orioles on Monday for 5 years, $150 million. The Phillies, from what it sounds like, they had previously only offered a 4-year deal with an option for the 5th year based on things that triggered it, right? That would trigger that 5th year guarantee. I don't know what the specifics of that were, but there were things that had to happen over the course of the first 4 years to guarantee that 5th year. So Schwarber's agency reaches out to the Phillies on Monday afternoon and says, we got this, 5-year, $150 million offer from Baltimore. Now, there had been an agreement in place between the two sides that the Phillies would get the last chance on all to match or beat any deal. So that was kind of that's what Schwarber offered the Phillies coming into it. Phillies met for a brief period of time on Monday and talked to John Middleton, and they said, do it. 5 years, $150 million. And he's back. We're going to get a chance to talk to Schwarber at noon. So, obviously, we're recording this. It's like 10:40 a.m. right now. So about a little less than an hour and a half, we'll be able to talk to Schwarber. So we won't be able to get his reaction until then. But the Phillies, I can tell you, everybody that's down here are thrilled. Dombrowski was thrilled. Preston Mattingly was thrilled. I talked to Rob Thomson maybe more than I've ever talked to Rob Thomson in the last 3 days, right? He's really, really ecstatic to bring him back. And he says it's more about his leadership quality, Bob. Yesterday I was talking to him and he said, it's not just it's the way he leads. He's very self-deprecating. So he will take on a lot of the responsibility for a loss, even if it's not his, to try and make everybody else calm down and feel better in the clubhouse. It's really his team. I mean, I think that's the big takeaway from this is the Phillies basically made this commitment. If you look, from the day they signed him from 2022 to the end of his contract, he'll make more money than Bryce Harper. This is Kyle Schwarber's team, not Bryce Harper's team, and I think that's what this contract signifies.
Yeah, so from start to finish, right, it turns out to be a 9-year commitment for $230 million if you go back to the prior contract. All right, so there's a few different things I want to work through here. Certainly all along, the Phillies wanted to retain Kyle Schwarber, and you talk about the leadership. This team lacks power. He is the guy that almost solely provides it at this point, where they're at in this given time. So we know, we understand the importance. We understand that the Phillies had significant intent to bring him back. But I do want to work through a couple different angles of this. How serious do you think the flirtations were for Kyle Schwarber with a return to Cincinnati or maybe going elsewhere? Because I look at it, and I mean, Kyle Schwarber doesn't owe the Phillies anything. He doesn't even owe them the ability to match at the end. And I think that's a nod to the organization. And hey, I do like this place. I would like to be here in a perfect world, but I don't need to be here. Do you look at this and say, like, man, he didn't give them a cent? Like, they had to match year for year, dollar for dollar with Baltimore to make sure that he stayed. And not to say that it shouldn't be about the money. It should be about the money for Kyle Schwarber. But do you look at this at all and say, like, man, like he didn't leave a cent on the table. Like they had to pay for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that though it was an understanding right from the beginning that there was not going to be a hometown discount kind of thing, and I mean that for both the Phillies and the Reds, who, by the way, were a legitimate player in this. The Reds, from what it sounds like, they offered 5 years, $125 million, but that was not their last final offer. They said that they could have gone a little bit higher. I don't think they would have gone to 150. And the Pirates made a legit offer. I think it was 4 years, 125 or something in that range. But so, Schwarber wasn't going to give a hometown discount. But at the same time, I think that the ability to say to the Phillies, hey, listen, you get final say. You get right of first refusal, in essence. I think that indicated how much he wanted to be a part of this organization. And I think that the Phillies rewarded that desire by saying, yeah, we will match that crazy number that the Baltimore Orioles set for a designated hitter. No DH has ever been paid this before. No. You can't count Ohtani because he pitches as well.
As late as August, I was like 120. Maybe somebody gets nuts and goes 5, but would it really be at 30 per? Like, would it maybe be more like 25 per? Like, this is a deal, man. Like, this guy got paid, and credit to him. He's really turned himself into a more complete hitter the last 2 years. The ability to hit lefties has obviously been huge. I love the guy. I really do. Having been around it now, I have not been around the team really on a semi-daily basis since 23. So I've taken more of that fan perspective, but I know, having been there, what he meant to that team, or what he's meant to that team. Let me just ask you, I mean, there probably are people listening to this saying, like, great, I guess in a perfect world, sure, you'd want to have Kyle Schwarber back, but you media types, all you do is talk about his clubhouse leadership and how important he is and all of this stuff. And what has that really got in the Phillies, other than, certainly recent years, early exits? Like, how do you sort of thread that needle, where you say, like, this guy is so critically important to what they do, but at the same time, the results have been fairly underwhelming, at least once you get to the playoffs? Like, what do you say to somebody that says, isn't it better to just take the $30 million a year and go get Cody Bellinger, or maybe step up and go get a Kyle Tucker, or maybe go look at third base and get Alex Bregman? Like, how do you reconcile that?
I can't reconcile it until I see what the finality of the offseason looks like, right? Because ultimately, if they don't do the things that they need to do to improve the team, then I think it's fair to call this into question.
Should you read into it that Kyle Schwarber stayed here, like that he felt like they pitched a plan to him that suggested this isn't just going to be a slow descent to hell, like that they really do believe that they're going to compete year in, year out?
Yeah, I do. But I also think that when you look at what who the most competitive teams were for this, right? Let's be honest. Like Baltimore, I think is a very short, even though that they have a lot of young talent. I think they're looking to win now and not worried so much about the future. I mean, when you see them trade Grayson Rodriguez, for 1 year of Taylor Ward, you sit there and go, okay, that's a team that wants to win right now and not necessarily down the line. The Reds, I think the Reds were doing it. They were trying to appeal to his heartstrings to come home. But I think that they looked at that as, we're going to sign Kyle Schwarber to get butts in the seats, not necessarily to be a competitor for 5 years. And the Pirates, I think it was, again, I think that's another short-term thing, because it's like, hey, we're trying to show Paul Skeens that he could stay here rather than, get ready to leave in a couple seasons. So I think that when you look at the teams that were more involved, the Phillies easily offered the best chance at competing long term. But I do think that the Phillies said to him, here's what we're planning on doing. Here's what we're thinking about doing. We're trying to do. And I think it was appealing to Schwarber. I think that he's one of those guys who has enough gravitas in that clubhouse that he kind of gets let in on the plan a little bit more than maybe most other guys do. Right. So I think that I'm pretty sure that he's good with it, and he's good with the plan that they have going forward.
All right, well, let's talk about the most immediate and the most pressing topic here, which is one large piece of the puzzle that has been put in place now. What are you hearing down there? What do you kind of suspect might be the next shoe to drop? Just general thoughts about where this offseason's headed. Because listen, go ahead. I'll just set this up. I mean, when I saw the news yesterday, I said, great. Like I said, I love Kyle Schwarber. Awesome. You cannot bring the same team back. And I don't think that they're going to bring the same team back, but that doesn't just mean like, hey, we paid $17 million for Nick Castellanos to go away. Like, this team has to be better, and it has to upgrade in certain ways. And I'm cognizant of the fact that they won well over 90 games last year, that this isn't some bullshit team where they have to like totally tear it down or they have to go out and make 5 different splash additions, but it's got to be a little bit different. And I think a lot of people in this moment are still wondering, can they really be different? What are their solutions? And so that's how I'll set you up for this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's been that we're hearing down here, different rumors that have kind of been flying around. Obviously, I think next on their priority list is JT Realmuto. I'm not sure that one gets done this week. I think that one might go another week or so. He's still out there trying to get a third year from somewhere, like an offer of a third year. I think Realmuto is another guy like Schwarber would like to come back. But I think right now the Phillies are more inclined to only give him a 2-year deal as opposed to a 3-year deal. So I think that Realmuto is trying to get a third year somewhere that he can come back to the Phillies and say, hey, listen, I got this 3-year offer.
Are you with me on JT Realmuto that you'd like to see him back? I absolutely would not give him a third year. Like, no shot.
Yeah.
Like you said, with the Schwarber, the initial proposal, like some type of incentive-based, locks it in, like maybe, but 3 years guaranteed, no.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. My only concern is that there really isn't much else out there on the catching market. And Dombrowski said it himself. And when we had a sit down with Dave yesterday up in their suite, and he basically said, there's not a lot out there at the catching market, and they know that, right? So I think that they might. If Realmuto can find somebody who's willing to give him that third year, the Phillies may have to suck it up and give him the third year, because there is no other there is no good plan B, right, at catcher. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing. The thing that I think is the most interesting, Bob, is that their name's being thrown around as part of a trade for Ketel Marte. And I think that's really kind of an interesting thing to me, because it means you're moving off of Bryson Stott. It really means you're moving off of the platoon of Stott and Sosa, which was really good last year. Let's be honest. I know there's a lot of people out there say Stott should play every day, but Edmundo Sosa was great against left-hand pitching last year. It really was. And so when you look at the position, and this was a great example, because I asked Dave about this yesterday. I asked him about platoons. I actually wrote about it on Patterson yesterday. He made a point. He's like, listen, he says, look, he uses a history lesson. And of course, the first comparison that he made, he says, well, look, go back to the Big Red machine. You look at all those players from the Reds. He said, imagine that team today. They would all be $30 to $40 million players. No team could assemble a team like that in today's financial marketplace. So now you have to kind of piecemeal it together, and you have to look at it not necessarily as individual players, but look at the production you're getting out of a position, right? And so the other comparison he made was the Baltimore Orioles, 1983. Earl Weaver had John Lowenstein and Gary Renicky. Most people have no idea who those two players are, right? But those two guys in 1983, if you combine their stats as the platoon in left field, they had an 827 OPS. They hit 34 home runs, drove in 124 runs, but they each only played a half of a season. And so like the idea of that is what they're kind of going for in a couple of places. If you're going for Ketel Marte, you're kind of taking away the platoon that worked for you last year. So how does that work? And how would you make that work? I think that's the most interesting.
Let me actually, as you were talking, I'm like, how successful was it? And I don't think I realized the degree to which it was successful. The Phillies second baseman last year had the fourth highest WAR, the fourth most WAR combined. They were seventh in OPS, those two together. So, and that's with Bryson Stott going through just a dreadful 2-month spell, but it kind of speaks to how he finished his season and how good, as you said, Sosa was against left-handed pitching. So 2 questions off of that. One, if you're willing to move off of the Stott-Sosa platoon, does that have ramifications at third base? Like, where does Sosa fit into this? And if you're moving on from Stott, like, are you really going to do that much better at second? By the way, I would do this Marte trade in like a heartbeat, me personally. But like, what do you think what is the rationale to do this then?
Yeah, I would think that one of those, I would think that if you're doing that, like I would think Stott maybe goes back in that deal. Like I can't imagine that you keep him.
Yeah, I would think he'd be part of it. Would you, if it involved Stott and let's say Painter gets involved, like is it going to require Andrew Painter? And do you think the Phillies would be more inclined to do, whether it's Ketel Marte or anybody, do you think that they'd be more inclined to include Andrew Painter in a deal this winter than they would have been a year ago?
I don't. I think that the Phillies knew at the deadline what they know about Andrew Painter right now, and they didn't move him at the deadline. Right. When they could have, right? They could have gotten a Stephen Kwan, or they could have, there were teams that were asking about Andrew Painter at the deadline. The Phillies said no. And so they knew it in July what he was. They didn't need to see the full season to know that, he had a rough first year back from Tommy John. They expect more out of him. I got to imagine that that's going to be the case, right? That they're going to hold on to him, and he's going to be part of the rotation. Look, you don't know what Zach Wheeler's timeline is right now. They're hoping that it's, sometime in April, at worst in May, that he comes back to pitch, but you don't know. So other than that, I mean, you got Sanchez, you got Luzardo, you got Nola, you got. Yeah,
and I feel great about Luzardo. He was awesome in the postseason. Yeah. He did a nice job for them last year, but there was also like 2 months of podcasts where we're like, what the hell is up with this guy? Like, so there is a little bit of a question mark with Jesus Luzardo. I mean, I feel good about him, but it's not a sure thing. You talk about the surplus and the depth of that starting rotation. It isn't quite in the same spot in this moment.
Yeah, no, I think that's another thing. I think that they're trying hard. And when I say that they're trying hard to make a breakthrough in the Japanese player market. Mm-hmm. And I think Imai is an interesting name. I think that the Phillies are going to get an audience with him sometime before he has to make a decision on, I think it's January 2nd, I think is when his posting runs out. So sometime in the next few weeks, I think the Phillies are going to have an opportunity there. Whether or not it happens, we don't know. But I do think that I think it's one of the things that not a lot of people are talking about with the Phillies is I think that they're going to look to add at a starting pitcher.
All right. So Marte is a name that you've heard, and I guess we've all heard to an extent. Anything else out there that's been interesting or noteworthy that you're just hearing in general? I mean, we haven't talked about Harrison Bader. We haven't talked about Ranger Suarez. These are returning players potentially. Just anything else that you would feel like in this moment right now that's worth talking about?
Yeah, no, I mean, so the one thing I can tell you is, talking to somebody who is, very familiar with Rangers camp and his thinking and where they're at. His preference would be to come back to the Phillies. Like, that would be his preference. But I think that they also recognize that it's a tough thing to work financially for him. And so therefore he's looking at other teams. He's already talked to a couple of teams. Nothing is set in stone. I really wouldn't be surprised if, Scott Boras tries to get him to somewhere like the Cubs. I think that would be a team that would be a good fit for Ranger. I think that somewhere in the Central Division is, kind of where Ranger would fit best, whether it's a Chicago, whether it's a Milwaukee, even if he goes into the American League, like those divisions where you don't have those powerhouse teams, who are loaded up on talent, who spend $300 million on their roster in the East Coast and West Coast. I think those divisions are where you can flourish and be a guy where you can be a top of the rotation guy. And I think that's what he wants to be. So I think if he cannot come back to the Phillies, I would say somewhere in the central part of the country.
What would it take to come back to the Phillies? Would it be a concession in years? Would it be just the AAV? Like, what are we talking about? Like, when we say, like,
probably
it's open, but I mean,
probably both.
Yeah.
Probably both. I would think it has to be a short-term deal, and it has to be not big money. And that's the thing. I think
down to 4 years, $80 million, which I think is unrealistic.
Yeah. I guess maybe the Phillies would do that. Yeah, the Phillies would do that. But I don't think Rangers.
The reason why I ask, and the reason why I use those numbers, is because I do expect it to be 100. I do, but yeah. Maybe there's a world where people are a little bit scared off by the injury concerns, and he's not the prototypical dominant force in terms of what you look for physically. But is it like if they would scoff at 4 years, 80, then this is a conversation that's just totally not worth having. I mean,
right? I don't think it's going to. I think he's going to want more than that, and so I think that's the thing. It's. I think it's unfortunate. Well, that's the situation, but I'm pretty sure that Ranger Suarez is looking to go somewhere else. Ultimately.
And then what about just briefly touch on Harrison Bader? I will tell you how I feel about this. One, I guess if you ask me, do I think he'll be here next season? I'd say probably not, for starters. Then off of that, some time has gone on now since this postseason has ended, and we've had roughly 2 months to digest what the Phillies were a season ago. And the day after the season ended, I was like, you have to bring this guy back. He's a lot of fun. He's a pretty good defensive center fielder. He hit for them. He was a spark plug on a team that needed a little extra juice. How do you not bring him back? And like 60 days goes by, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, isn't the reality of it that he's probably going to get 3 years, and you're going to ultimately pay for a guy that hits 250 with 14 home runs? Like, what are we really doing here? Do we need to spend $36 million over 3 years on that? Isn't there a better way to do this? And I'm almost leaning towards that second, more recent line of thinking as some time has gone on here.
Yeah, I mean, to keep in mind, Bob, there's the whole back of the baseball card thing. They say it all the time. The Phillies are huge on that phraseology, right? Yeah. Look at the back of the baseball card. If you look at the back of the baseball card for Harrison Bader, you see a substandard hitter who plays really good defense in the outfield. Yeah, he had a career year last year, and he's going to look to try and cash in on it. But can you expect that, especially when his BABIP was as high as it was, right? Like, he was a little bit fortunate at times last year with his bat. So I don't know. I think that's probably something that the Phillies are thinking about. And I think that if you could get him on a 2-year deal, and it's not ridiculous money, maybe it's 12, 13 million a year. Okay, I could buy it. I can go along with that. If you have to go to a 3rd year, and if the money's 15 million or whatever, like, I'm not doing 345 for Harrison Bader. I find another way.
Is there anything else out there that could happen here potentially? I mean, obviously the answer to this is yes. You're always a phone call away, but like we're talking about a team that does, for the most part, feel largely the same. Like right now, I think fans have the same feeling about the Phillies marching orders that they did 2 months ago, which is hopefully we can bring back Schwarber. Hopefully we can bring back Real Muto. Hopefully we can tweak the back end of our rotational depth. I know in the moment Dave said that they weren't going to really entertain another high leverage arm. And now there's some whispers that maybe they enter that market if things break right. This feels to me, Anthony, very similar to the teams that we've seen the past couple of years. And was there any reason to think, other than maybe a Marte trade or something of that nature, that it will be any different?
So it's interesting. We're sitting there, and they have this suite. I'll set the stage for you a little bit. We're sitting upstairs in the top floor of this incredible hotel. This place it's on Disney property, and it's a beautiful place, right? And so the Phillies have a suite on the top floor, and so we go up there, and you walk into a room, and there's a big conference table, and you got Dave sitting there at one end with Preston Mattingly and Rob Thomson on either side of him, and then we're sitting around the table, kind of like a round table kind of thing. And it was Todd Zielecki who was asking the question. The way Zielecki phrased the question is he said, I hate to use the phrase run it back. And he didn't even get to finish the question before Dave interrupted him and said, I'm glad you don't like it because I don't like it either. Our club is not running it back. He insisted that this was the case. So look, there's going to be at least 10 players, I would say, that are going to be different on this roster on opening day from the way the season ended. I'd say 10, okay? Here's where you have to determine, what's Dombrowski's definition of not running it back versus what's a fan definition of not running it back? And Dave's definition might be, look, we're going to turn over, 40% of the roster. Yeah. Okay. But the fans are going to see that the 16 guys that you brought back that are back again are your main 16 guys that have been playing all along. And so how really different is it? Right. So I think that ultimately that's what it comes down to. And so it's the determination of what you consider running back. The Phillies are going to look. The one thing, Bob.
I'm sorry. Let me cut you off here real quick. So, let me ask it to you like this: is it like every offseason's moving parts, and you don't come in with an absolute defined plan and say, well, like if this, then that. But like if you're entertaining Ketel Marte, like, are you basically saying like we are cool with moving off of Bryson Stott, but if Bryson Stott's back, then we have to move off of Alec Bohm because we don't want to do Stott and Bohm. Like it's like that's to me that's the thing. Like, are they seriously like I'm out? Like I'm just out. Like if this infield is Real Muto, Harper, Stott, Turner, Bohm again, like good God, man, like. And I think that's where I can't speak for fans in general. Like I can't speak for everyone, but like I can acknowledge that this is a very good team that will likely win 90 plus games next year. But like how do you get up for that? Like from a fundamental standpoint, say this time it'll be different. Like I just can't get there.
Yeah, I hear you, and I still think that we have to wait and see because I do think that there is going to be a change in the infield. I don't think it's going to be those four guys back again. I really don't, and I'm not sure exactly how it goes. I think that they would prefer that Alec Bohm is the guy that they move on from, and that you figure it out from there.
Easy to trade him. Like, shouldn't that be an easy contract to move? You're talking about what, 1 year? What is it? 10? What, like,
especially with the lack of right-handed hitting available. Right? Like there is no right-handed hitting period out there.
Guy was throwing 100 runs 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He was dealing with some injuries this year, which I think were pretty notable. Like to me, like he should be easy to move. Like some team should want to take that on and say like, hey, you know what? Maybe this guy can hit 280 for us with 40 doubles and knocking 80 runs. Like that's in him. I just don't think it should be here anymore. Like I think he would benefit from not being here. The Phillies need a better solution at that spot. Just feels mutually beneficial to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I 1,000% agree with you. I think that the Phillies kind of agree with you too. It's a matter of making it work, right? It always, like we always say, it takes two to tango, and so you got to find that other team that is willing to take that on. And look, it's not that big of a commitment, right? I mean, he's going to hit free agency next year. It's 1 year. It's likely $10 million, roughly, as we assume what the arbitration number is. And you sit there and go, okay, I can gamble on that. If it works out for us, great. If it doesn't, okay, it's only 1 year. So I think that that's why I think that he's going to be the guy that's going to move. And I know we're kind of short on time, but another interesting thing that came up yesterday is how much that they've been singing the praises of Otto Kemp.
Yeah.
Like, Bob, I like Otto Kemp. I think Otto Kemp is a fine piece to a team, right? Like, he could be a bench guy for me and not be a problem. I think that he's a good fit on a good team in that regard. But the way that they're talking him up, I mean, Dave Dombrowski said he's a championship player yesterday. Like, and they're talking about how much they're going to utilize him next year. And it's like a little bit head scratching to me because I don't know. Do you see that? I don't see that caliber player there.
Well, it looked like he got more comfortable towards the end of the season, and he certainly was a dynamic hitter and a big-time power bat at minor league level. It didn't really translate necessarily in the short stint up here, but you started to see like this is a competent major league hitter. So like I can get myself to a place where I say we are a competitive team trying to win a championship. This guy deserves to be on this team. And I would be more than comfortable with him, getting 250 at bats over the course of a season. Hell yeah. I don't know what they necessarily saw that would make them say that he's more than that. At least banking on that. Like if something just developed throughout the course of the season, you say, look at this. We just lucked into this thing. Look, this is awesome.
Right.
Then sure. But going in December 1st and saying like, yeah, we think that he could be core to a championship team. I don't know. I mean, maybe I hate when the word analytics gets said because I think it's so all encompassing. And there's a lot of nuance to like how analytics are developed and how they're utilized by each individual organization. But like, do they have something analytically that just screams, holy shit, watch this jump this guy's about to make next year? Maybe. But no, I mean, to your point, no, like I don't know that I'm ultra comfortable with that right now in this moment.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by it. Tim Kelly did a great story about it, like on Patterson. It's just I was really surprised that they've been pushing him as much as they have. I just the name keeps coming up on their own, like they bring it up. Nobody's asking about Otto Kemp, and all of a sudden he just gets talked about, right? And
all right. Well,
anyway.
for the sake of being a little short on time, let me just hit you with a couple rapid fire things here. Let's do a Castellanos check. Still 0% chance he's back next year.
0% he's back next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brandon Marsh, kind of like this guy who is sort of super intriguing, like good clubhouse guy, has had his moments. Horrendous start last year. Awesome finish to the regular season. Absolutely destroyed them in the postseason. Like, we're kind of in the same spot with Brandon Marsh. We're like, I like the guy, and he's a fit to a degree on a good team, but he can't be the guy. You expect him back?
Yes. It was interesting because as part of that thing I was talking about the platoons, one of the things that Dave Dombrowski said was, for now, right now, and I love when he qualifies because it tells you that they're thinking something else could potentially happen. But he says right now he could see a Marsh Kemp left field platoon. And if you did that based off of their numbers last year, 827 OPS.
Yeah, I think that would be satisfactory. If that's their plan in left field, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I need to see center and right or third.
Correct.
And what is it, second?
Yes.
If it's like Johan Rojas or something of that caliber center, and then Crawford running around right, and that's what you're doing in left, and it's stop and boom, then I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, well, so the one thing he said about Crawford is that he said Crawford because I asked about him. He said he's either left or center. He said he doesn't have an arm to play right. He doesn't have the arm to play right. So I think that if you're talking about Marsh, Kemp as your left field platoon, then Crawford's playing center field. Yeah. I got to imagine.
Well, right? If you're willing to roll with Crawford in center field, then what's the point of Bader? Like, you're really going to re-sign a defensive first guy to play right field and Harrison Bader,
right?
So you get 247. I
don't know
that. So
yeah.
All right. So we hit on Marsh. We talked a little bit about Bohm. Talked a little bit about Stott. I mean, everything else here is pretty rock solid, right? Like, I'm sorry, the one name, Max Strom. Dave Dombrowski in his end of season press conference didn't seem to love Matt Strom's insinuation that the team didn't practice PFPs. It was a really aggressive response by him. And then there's been this subsequent rumor that they would maybe consider moving on from one of their left-handed relievers. Whether that be Strom or Alvarado, who's on the 1 year, 9 year deal, or 1 year, $9 million deal, or Tanner Banks, they do have a little bit of a surplus in terms of their left-handed relievers. Is it possible that Strom is being actively shopped right now?
Yes, I think he is actually being actively shopped right now.
Do you think that's more about probably a combination of both? But do you think it's more about that they feel like there were some signs last year that he's on the decline? And that is there a personality conflict here? Is there a mentality here? Is there something else going on with this?
Yeah, I mean, Strom's got an edge, right? He's that kind of guy. He's kind of a little bit of an edgy guy, and I don't think it's a conflict by any stretch of imagination. I do think that there was some chatter between them and the Seattle Mariners. Mariners were looking for a lefty reliever. Phillies were looking for a young catcher, possibly. And you saw that the Mariners ended up trading Harry Ford, the catching prospect, to Washington for Jose Ferrer, their lefty reliever. So I think that the Phillies were in on that conversation, and it just didn't didn't materialize. They ended up going with the deal with Washington. But I do think that there is a possibility that Strom does go somewhere else, because teams are looking for lefty relievers, and the Phillies have 3 of them. So that it wouldn't be a big surprise. Couple quick things from my end. Obviously, I just want to get your quick take on it. Rob Thomson extended for a year. Obviously not a surprise. Dombrowski talked about that at the end of October. I get the sense that this is it, that there won't be another extension beyond it. I think that he's done after 27.
Yeah, I don't think it's about performance. I think he's done after 27.
Yeah.
This is the end of his coaching career. So,
yes.
And if this is a disaster, they just swallow. I mean, if you're bringing him back, you have to add the year. You take care of him. This is either it this year because it doesn't go well, or it's next year and then he retires. So right. The other question off of that is, I agree with you. Are they formulating plans now near term to figure out who that replacement is going to be?
So the bench coach, it sounds like it's going to be Don Mattingly. The Phillies basically said that there's mutual interest there. They talked about it publicly. So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of finalizing the deal.
It should not be a hard negotiation.
Yeah, I know. It's right. It shouldn't be. Yeah. And I guess the only other thing is that, he won a Manager of the Year award before. He's had some success with 2 teams. Is he the guy?
Yeah, I mean, he's 64 years old right now, so you would think he would still want to have a 5 or 6, 7 year run after that to still do it if he wanted to. So
yeah, but
okay.
Anyway, so we're going to eschew one last thing today, because I have another thing I have 5 feet to my right that I got to go do now at 11:15. So, but we'll do this again probably sometime in the next week or two. As more news comes out about what the Phillies are doing. I think we're going to have a busy holiday season with the Phillies this year. I just think that the way things are going, I think you're going to see some stuff happen over the course of the next 2 weeks. So with that said, thanks for tuning in, as always, to Phightin Words. We love having you here on the show. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts. Best place right here On YouTube, click the thumbs up, ring the bell. You'll always get an alert whenever Bob and I decide, oh, well, we're going to go live. Yeah, let's do it. We make a decision like 15 minutes before we do it, and then we do it. And if you're listening in the podcast feed, if you want to find us on YouTube, it's youtube.com/@FightinWords. So for Bob Wankel, I am Anthony Sanfilippo saying thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will talk to you soon.